All right, everybody, we're back with a brand new Cabral concept, the weekend edition of the show. Love being able to bring you every Saturday and Sunday a new Cabral HouseCall where we answer our community's questions. Each and every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, we get to about a dozen questions total. What I get to do is open up this amazing document that my team puts together with all of the questions that come in each and every week from StephenCabral.com/askCabral. We answer them in the order that they come in, which means usually it's about 10 to 12 weeks for your question to be read live on the show. No prep work is done ahead of time. I love being able to give you my experience working with now well over 300,000 people, my team and I, and running now over 500,000 labs. So without further ado, let's dive into the questions. That's why we're here. If you want to follow along, head on over to StephenCabral.com/3228. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube or your favorite podcast player, we appreciate you. We thank you. Would love for you to hit that subscribe button and, of course, leave a review. All right, let's dive right in. First question is from Audrey. Audrey writes, "Hello, appreciate all of your insights. You are a wealth of knowledge." Thank you, Audrey. I'm a 32-year-old that has had idiopathic thrombocytopenia since I had my child 5 years ago. Just wondering what labs you recommend for this and how to improve the numbers. Thanks. Okay, so I've talked about thrombocytopenia multiple times. You can always search, if you'd like, at StephenCabral.com/podcast, a little search bar there, and you're welcome to use that for your search term, but always happy to answer this. So let's break it down for those people that do not know what idiopathic thrombocytopenia is. Idiopathic just means that conventional medicine has no idea why it happens, right? So I had many idiopathic chronic inflammatory issues when I was 17, 18 years old. Then at 19 years old, 2 years later, they weren't idiopathic, which means now they knew why. Okay, why? Well, I had Addisons disease. That was a big one, right? And then I had rheumatoid arthritis. But even those, you could classify those as idiopathic because how did I get that Addisons, right? So for them, conventional medicine, they basically just say everything is genetic. And yes, the easiest way to say is everything is genetic because our genes are essentially part of who we are, but it never gets to the root cause. So what we like to do is we say, yes. Oh, and so thrombocytopenia is basically low platelet count. And so it can lead to thinning of the blood and bleeding. And particularly the most worrisome is in the head, because if you were to fall, maybe hit your head, have any type of trauma, that would be more dangerous. Now, most people with thrombocytopenia live normal lives and they just keep on going and it doesn't shorten lifespan and everything's good. But you need to be careful of the low blood platelet count and your body's ability to blood clot, right? So what might we just watch for in the beginning? Well, first I have to give you my disclaimer. I can't provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, or medical diagnosis. But you may want to be careful with taking a lot of cayenne pepper, right? Products, or even high dosages of omega-3s and anything that might thin the blood. You always kind of want to be aware of that. All right. For most people, excellent, right? For some people, very rare to have thrombocytopenia, but if you do, well, then you've been diagnosed with it and you can take those steps. Now, what can we do? Well, my goal is always, because I've worked with many people in my practice with this, is we look at, okay, what are the inflammatory conditions allowing for the genetic expression of this thrombocytopenia? And so what I do, especially if it didn't come on until they were an adult, I run the big five. So it's StephenCabral.com/big and then the number 5. That's what I do. You can find everything at StephenCabral.com/shop that takes you over to Equilife. And those are all the labs that I use. And those are all the protocols that I use in my practice with hundreds of thousands of people per year. So what I want to share with you is this: always best to find out what are the main causes. Now, if you can only run 2 labs, then please do run the Vitamin Tox Test, also called the starter kit. And you can find that at StephenCabral.com/shop. And so the big 5, it includes those 2 labs in the starter kit. But if you can run all 5, now you're going to get even more knowledge as to, okay, what do your hormones look like? What do your food sensitivities look like? What do your vitamin levels look like? Are you undermethylating? Are you overmethylating? What do your heavy metals look like? What do your mineral levels look like? What's your zinc look like? Copper, like all the things that affect your blood as well. So that's what I would do, because that's what I would do for my own family. So that's why I want to recommend it for you. All right. And then you get a personalized plan from there. Okay, Kaylee's up next, and Kaylee says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I appreciate everything you do. I'm reaching out because I'm at a loss for what to do next. I have dealt with chronic constipation and bloating my entire life. A year ago, I cut out all dairy from my diet and started working with an IHP. She was phenomenal, and for a while, constipation, gas, and bloating had subsided while working with her. Through working together, I am now able to have a bowel movement every morning. However, the intense bloating, gas, and belching has returned. From the moment I wake up until I go to bed, my stomach gets more and more distended as the day goes on. I prioritize whole foods, still don't eat dairy, exercise 5 days a week, prioritize 7 to 8 hours sleep at night, and live a healthier life than a lot of my peers. What should I do?" All right. So I love your question. Everything is amazing. We just have to take out the word "than a lot of my peers." Does not matter. Because again, I'm not coming down to you, Kaylee. I have to work way harder than general population to keep myself healthy. Okay? Yeah, that's part of my genes and is part of my health history with being a sick kid and then being really sick from 17 to 27. But I'm okay. I'm willing to put in the work because I get to live an amazing life, right? And so but keep in mind, I've got good friends of mine. They have a couple drinks every single night. They only sleep 6 to 7 hours. Like, they're not sick. They don't have autoimmune issues, right? So it's like, we just never want to compare. That's all that I'm saying. Okay. So like, without a doubt, we can easily fix this, Kaylee. And I don't want to, I don't want to say that you haven't put in the work, because you have. You're almost there, but not quite there yet. I was like that for like 9 years until I met my mentor. Then my mentor was like, "Oh, you've done so much. You're almost there. You were just missing putting this, and this together. You were kind of doing them, but not in the right way, not all at once." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that makes sense." And so here's what I want to share with you. You got results from being constipated, all that, started having a bowel movement, all that's great. So you were doing something right. So then I would always ask, it's like, well, what changed, right? Like, that's the biggest question. What changed? You didn't have results, then you had results, then you didn't have results. What changed over that period of time? What new foods were introduced? What new supplements were introduced? What superfoods, right, were introduced? Whatever was introduced. Were you more stressed? So we would just look at those specific things. Did you take antibiotics? Did you do X, Y, and Z? So we need to know that. But the biggest thing is that you haven't run any lab testing yet. That's the biggest thing. And I just want to stress that to people. Because Kaylee, and I've done 1 million shows on this, so literally 1 million, maybe not quite 1 million, but you know what I mean. Just go to StephenCabral.com. We can do two things. StephenCabral.com/podcasts. Scroll through the images at the top. Click on the one for gut and digestion. All free shows on your gut, how to heal. Okay. Then I've got another one at StephenCabral.com/courses, where if you ever want to learn about your thyroid and how to heal your thyroid, or how to heal your digestion, or how to lose weight, or how to and keep it off, or how to rebalance female hormones, please, those are all courses. You won't need to read a dozen books, and you won't need to see a dozen practitioners. It teaches you everything in 4.5 hours. That's just what it turns out to be. Between 4 and 5 hours is all the information, and then it's yours. Lifetime access. So you can do that at StephenCabral.com/courses. There's a small investment. It's totally up to you. And that's that. So yeah, and then there's the free podcast, but also you can just run the labs. And it comes with a consultation with an IHP level 2 or with the EcoLife coach, and you can run it with whoever you'd like. But it's called the Big 3 Labs. That's what you want to run. Not the Big 5. You can run the Big 5, but then add a stool test. Because the Big 3 is the food sensitivity testing, because it's even healthy foods, 190 foods. It is the Candida metabolic and vitamins test. Do you have Candida overgrowth, or do you have Clostridia overgrowth? And the last one is the bacterial and parasite stool test. Because remember, we only have bloating and gas because of either weak digestion. Okay, we can work on that. Candida overgrowth, H. pylori, which is tested on the stool test, bacterial overgrowth, parasites, and food sensitivities. So we test for all those, right? So there you have it. Like, we'll figure out which one it is. We'll move you through the CBO protocol with citrucidal drops if you need to. If there's parasites, we'll add on the parasupport protocol. If there's H. pylori, we'll add on the mastic gum. Yeah, so all of these things we've seen not 1,000 times, tens of thousands of times, probably 100,000, just for gut and digestion. So this is what we want to help people with. That's our goal. And we'd love to help you as well, Kaylee. Again, all of this is at StephenCabral.com/shop. You can just search. All right, Kelsey's up next. How does glutamate affect methylation? All right, well, we've got probably winner of the shortest question. but also winner of the most complicated question, because how glutamate affects methylation is very complicated. It has to do with homocysteine, it has to do with SAMe, it has to do with the Krebs cycle, but I want to give you a little snippet I don't want to lose everybody here going through the biochemistry of methylation, the Krebs cycle, and glutamate. But basically, glutamate we think of as a bad thing, and I get it, because too much glutamate or too much MSG is a bad thing. It's basically a neurotoxin. It's excitatory, and it causes oxidative stress on the body. It's not good in any way, shape, or form. It's really bad for the brain, really bad for susceptible children, maybe with the past history of ASD or executive functioning disorder or anything like that. Okay, so I totally get it. Work with many kids in our practice like this. So here's the thing though. Glutamate also can be converted to glutamine. It's also used as a component of folate derivatives, right? So we need folate for methylation, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, right? It's easy, rolls right off the tongue to say that's part of methylation. And glutamate is actually a component of that, right? Now, that doesn't mean eat more glutamate. It's just part of natural foods. And so you're going to be good. So there is that part. And also it can be converted to alpha ketoglutarate through what's called transamination or amination. But it's critical as part of the energy-based cycle and the Krebs cycle, the citric acid cycle that gives us ATP and energy. So some good. What happens when you have too much? Bad, right? Creates what? Oxidative stress, as I talked about before, starts to tax the nervous system and really depletes our body of antioxidants. So that's how glutamine and methylation work. Like most things, even folate. You take too much folate, you're going to be over methylating for some individuals. You take too little, you under methylate. The goal is always balance for you. How do you find that out? In a great lab called the Starter Kit. Tests all your vitamin and mineral levels, gut and heavy metals. So again, that's called the Vitamin Tox Test or the Starter Kit. You can search either one at stephencabral.com/shop. And again, that's just our private practice. I need to come up with a better name than shop. It's kind of cheesy in my opinion, but it's easy. Everybody can spell shop, SHOP, even me. And sometimes my spelling can be certainly off. That's for sure. All right. So up next is Francis. Francis says, hi, Dr. Cabral. First off, I want to say how amazing you are breaking down complex health topics and offering practical solutions on your podcast. It's been incredibly helpful, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Francis. It's quite kind of you. Your question is, I have a question about raw versus cooked vegetables. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine often recommend eating cooked vegetables to aid digestion and other bodily processes. Does this also apply to veggies we add in the smoothies? Frequently use raw spinach, kale, and cauliflower in mine. Should I be cooking them first, or does blending them make them easier to digest? Thanks so much for your answer, Francis. Yeah, it's a great question. So almost all forms of traditional medicine always recommend cooking your veggies. And one is simply breaking down the cellulase structure. And in certain cruciferous vegetables, it's even more important, there's certain vegetables, and they're called cruciferous vegetables. And that's basically the cellulase structure that creates a specific type of cross-like structure. That would be cauliflower and broccoli and asparagus and bok choy and many others that are filled, a lot of them with sulforaphane and so good for you. So I typically do recommend cooking your veggies for easier digestion. Now, some people, Pitta body types, have robust digestion, and they can eat these raw veggies and they do great, and it helps satiate them even more because it takes more time and energy to break down raw veggies, right? I've also talked about, well, you can front load a meal with a salad if you're better looking to work on the brain, the psychology, like I've got different podcasts, so I don't want to get too deep on that. So that can be great. Now, so yes, again, when in doubt, cook your veggies. Nothing wrong with that. Releases certain other great minerals and vitamins that are easier to get. So yes, I do recommend that. And for me, we just bake at a low temperature. That's all that we do. We don't add any oils. We don't do anything like that. We just cook low temperature, and then we add the olive oil and a little sea salt afterwards, and any spices that we want. Okay, so now can you put them in a smoothie raw? Yes. So does it break it down in the same way? not exactly, but it makes digestion way easier. So that is why most people can get away with blending their veggies and there's no bloating or gas. And that is because it's essentially chewing them up. And remember, raw vegetables contain all their enzymes. And so it's not bad either. It's just simply doesn't take as much energy as you alluded to. That's why a smoothie is one of the best things that you can give your body, especially as you get older. It takes almost no energy to break that down. It slows the glycemic index. If you look on the research on that, it's delicious. It's hydrating. It's easy to take with you. It's fairly inexpensive. You can use frozen if you want to make it even easier to keep all these things in your house. Anyway, there's a lot of benefits. So if it's working for you, I'm not asking you to change anything. Some people might say, well, kale could lead to a goiter if, in some people. Well, okay. If you have thyroid-based issues and you know that you do, Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, okay, then maybe you don't use kale, right? And you might say, well, spinach is high in oxalates and things like that. Okay, well, if you're someone that's dealing with high levels of oxalates, then maybe that's not the best for you. So again, there is something called bioindividualization, and you can make it what's best for you, all right? Thank you, Francis. Great question. All right, I want to get one more in. I don't know if I like to keep the show at 15 minutes, but let's get one more. This is from Lauren. They say, hi, Dr. Cabral. A close friend is suffering from Morton's neuroma in both her feet. She has had a cortisone injection, tried rest, and really can't find much in terms of natural remedies. Are you able to make suggestions? Sometimes surgery is the only option, but I would appreciate your expertise and guidance on possible healing modalities. Thank you. Okay. So yes, I don't want to say I'm an expert in this area, but certainly know about it. It's usually like the middle toes are the ones suffering. Well, first, I do like to break down these complex things. Morton's neuroma, like, what does this mean? Well, really, okay, it deals with the feet. And whenever you hear neuro, I want you to think nervous system. So it's dealing with the nerve or nerve bundle that's basically feeding or going towards the middle toes. That's basically it. And it gets inflamed. And it's very painful. And sometimes the toes can swell or burn or itch or any of those things. Remember, burning and itching is all part of the nervous system. If the nervous system's inflamed, it feels like it's burning and itching. So this almost always happens from trauma over time or all at once. So you can get an injury and this could damage the nerve. Oftentimes it's from people wearing high heels or the toes are forced into a small shoe. Over time, any of those things can happen. So 2 parts to healing this is to be able to allow those toes to spread. No more foot binding tight shoes, wider base shoes, walking barefoot, working on opening and stretching open the toes. And then also exercise with essentially barefoot, but obviously being safe. And then what I'm doing, and there's a bunch of great shoes for this, or the wide toe box. Maybe I'll do that as a Friday review on another show. And then I'm running the Big 5 because there's a lot of inflammation that has to do with Morton's neuroma. Why so inflamed? Okay, great test to run. The omega-6 to omega-3 inflammation test, without a doubt. What else leads to inflammation? Heavy metals, food sensitivities, gut issues, imbalanced hormones. So I'm running the Big 5. Again, Big 5, you get a 90-minute call. You get a personalized plan. It is, if the only reason you wouldn't do the Big 5 is if you can't afford it. And I understand that. I totally get it. When my mom and I would go to doctor's appointments when I was younger and when I had health issues, we started with 2 labs, not all 5, not 7. So I get it. So if you're starting with 2, which 2 do I recommend for you? Well, I'd recommend then I'd recommend the starter kit. And then I'd recommend taking 2 to 3 grams of the omega-3s, the daily omega-3, and then whatever you find on that starter kit, AKA vitamin tox test. So Lauren, hopefully that was helpful, and I appreciate all of your support. I'll be back tomorrow. Brand new Cabral HouseCall then. Enjoy your weekend. Talk soon. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.